My name is Hannah, and this is my beauty budget. Hey y'all, real quick, I did film this eye look. I attempted to do a short, LOL, we'll see how it goes, a short little demonstration or tutorial of this, which has kind of become my go-to eye look lately. So that's coming. I'm sure it won't be up yet because I know that this video will be going up on Friday, the first day of the sale for those of us who are VIB Rouge, and I know that there's another video that will have gone up on Thursday. So it's coming soon, maybe over the weekend, maybe sometime next week, we'll see. But keep an eye out for that, especially if you're curious about this kind of simple, smudgy, grungy, but slightly iridescent fall look that I've been really into. But this video is about the Sephora sale. I didn't realize it was coming up so soon. I'm filming this on Wednesday and I just realized that the sale is popping off on Friday. So I wanted to quickly film one of my traditional rallying videos, although it's kind of interesting this time because, as I'll explain once I get into the meat of the video, this is the first Sephora sale since before my no-buy year that has me in a position to maybe think about whether I want to take advantage of it or not. So it's really interesting in terms of where I am with relation to the sale. I'll talk all about that. And then I have two really clear, specific pieces of advice for getting through the sale without doing something that you will in some way regret, whether it's financially or just in terms of the volume of stuff or in terms of your emotional health and your relationship with shopping and all of that. I have two solid pieces of advice to take with us into this sale time, which is protracted. It's like half the month. There's going to be a Sephora sale for half the month starting now. It's a little bit intense and a little bit weird. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. So the first thing I want to do is to just touch base about my whole situation with my budget with the sale. And it's not a big deal. It's just interesting to me because since before my no-buy year, this is the first time that the timing of the sale has kind of matched up with my budget to where it's appealing. The sale is appealing. And by that I mean that during my no-buy year, obviously I wasn't shopping the sale at all. So all of the Sephora sales and Ulta sales and all of the sales during my no-buy year, I was just like, this is nothing to me, water off a duck's back, I'm not breaking my no-buy. And so there was no angst, there was no decision to be made. But curiously, all of the Sephora sales so far this year, and I think the Ulta sales, although Ulta doesn't really compel me as much as Sephora does, I'm all about those black and white stripes and that bougie alien light flooding from the corners of the ceilings. And so Sephora has always kind of been the one that sucks me in. So the Sephora sales historically before my no-buy year were the ones that really, really got me into trouble. Those were the sales during which I would place a huge order right as soon as the sale started, and then before the end of the sale I would go back and place another huge order because I would feel like I couldn't miss out on the chance to buy a whole bunch of stuff that I wouldn't otherwise have bought on sale. And we've talked about this before. When you do that, you're not saving money, you're spending money. Because if you're buying something that you wouldn't have bought, even if you're getting it at a slightly reduced price, you're still spending money that you would otherwise have saved. So there's no savings involved in buying a bunch of stuff during a sale. And there was definitely no saving involved in the way that I used to behave during the Sephora sales. By the way, I'll link my Sephora sale survival playlist down below because a lot of that kind of talk, a lot of that information, and that kind of debunking of the flawed logic that we use to convince ourselves to overspend during sales, all of that goes on in those videos, and I'm going to try not to repeat too much of that in this video. So if you haven't watched that survival playlist, if you haven't watched that playlist, if you haven't watched those videos of mine, or if you're new to me, definitely click through and check those ones out because in a way they'll offer more robust advice even than this video will. This year, which is the year during which I'm budgeting for beauty, so at the beginning of every month I receive $200 from myself. I allot myself $200 to spend on extras, beautiful things. My categories are makeup, skincare, clothing, and homewares. Those are the categories of beautiful things that I have historically overspent upon. And every time there's been a Sephora sale this year, it's been at a time when I had already spent all of my budget, or I was saving for something big that I knew that I wanted with my budget. And the sale just, there was nothing I wanted at Sephora, and there was nothing compelling me to like browse at Sephora just because of the way that my budget has been ebbing and flowing. There have been so many strings of weeks over the course of my budgeting year when I've just not been shopping. Just buying stuff has not been on the table. Browsing, getting interested, window shopping, considering making kind of an impulsive purchase, all of that has been totally off the table. Even though I've had a budget for beauty, I've been mindfully allotting it to specific things most of the year. And then once that budget is allotted, I'm sort of on a no buy. And the longer the year has gone on, the more I've been in that frame of mind, the more time I've been spending in that frame of mind. So for the past 2 months, for example, each month I've purchased one expensive item of clothing, and then that's been it. So I did have to replace a couple of things this month, and I'll get into that next week in my video about how I spent my October budget. I'll let you know every single thing I bought. There were a few small items in addition to the one major clothing purchase that I made. Basically, over the past 2 months, I've felt like I was on a no buy, even though I, on 2 occasions, purchased one big ticket item, big ticket for me. Those occasions almost felt separate. It was like, I do this one thing once a month, but then I don't shop. And so what I'm trying to say in my roundabout way, my classically roundabout way, is that every time there's been a Sephora sale during my budget year, I've been in a frame of mind, in a phase where I'm just like, oh, I'm not shopping right now, so this sale doesn't mean anything to me. Or I'm not shopping for makeup right now, so this sale doesn't mean anything to me. And it's been so easy to just be like, I'm not shopping the sale right now because I don't have budget left, or I'm saving it for something else. And it's been an absolute no-brainer. Curiously though, now this time the sale is starting on the 1st of November. So today, as the sale starts, my budget will have renewed. And I had pretty much no budget left at the end of October. So all of a sudden I have my new $200 to spend. And that happening, just the fact of the budget and the sale aligning like this, makes me feel like running to Sephora and just seeing if there's anything that I want to indulge in buying. Even though there's not that much of a difference between my budget renewing on a normal month with no sale and my budget renewing on the day that the sale starts, there's not that much of a difference, because even as a rouge, although not for long, but even as a VIB rouge, it's only 20% off. So if I run to Sephora and I spend part or most of my budget on makeup that I wouldn't have bought if the sale weren't happening, then that means that Sephora got that chunk of my budget instead of not getting that chunk of my budget. And that would have happened if there weren't a sale. That would have been the same thing, if that makes sense. It would have been, it's the same thing as if there hadn't been a sale. So if I do that, then I'll just be letting the sale motivate me to spend a large chunk of my budget at Sephora instead of saving it to spend somewhere else, sale or no sale. I feel like my usual ability to articulate that kind of thing just failed me. So I hope that you know what I'm saying, but let me see if I can come up with a better way to say it. Basically, I only have $200 to spend on myself in November. And if there were no Sephora sale, I would be highly unlikely to spend it at Sephora. Maybe on one tiny thing, but probably not. I'm really into what I've been doing over the past couple months, which is picking one beautiful item of clothing and buying it. So I'm guessing that if there were no Sephora sale, that is likely what I would do with my budget. I would pick one beautiful item of clothing and I would buy it, or I would save my budget and just not buy anything, because this is the other factor. There's nothing on the ticket right now. There's nothing. At the beginning of last month, I knew exactly what I wanted to spend most of my budget on. I had been shopping around for it. And this month, I've just been too busy. I have no idea. There's nothing in a cart waiting for the first. There's nothing that I've been like dreaming of going out and buying. I don't have any plans for my budget this month. So that makes the sale like one step closer to sinking its teeth into me. But what I was trying to say is that if there were no sale, and I had no plans for my budget, probably I wouldn't be sitting here on the 1st of November thinking about potentially spending a large chunk of my budget at Sephora this month. I probably wouldn't, because I haven't done that at all this year with my budget. It just hasn't seemed like the most appealing way to spend my budget because things at Sephora are so expensive and they're so small. And so I know that I could just go in there and buy like 2 or 3 small things and that would be my whole budget gone. And that just doesn't seem very appealing to me right now. But because the sale is happening, I'm sort of considering making a Sephora purchase. So it's just a really interesting case study. My little life, my little budget is a really interesting case study right now. I'm thinking about using the sale as an opportunity to buy a few little things that I had decided against buying, like the Kaja bento boxes. They always just seemed a tiny bit too expensive to be worth my budget. The Natasha Denona mini gold palette, I had decided against completely. I just didn't want to spend $25 of my budget. Oh, I don't know, like, what are some of the other things? I'm looking on my loves list and I can't even remember why I put this stuff on here. I can't even, oh, the other Rowan quad, the Rowan Cool eyeshadow quad, I have the warm one and the 50, and I use it so much. I've used that thing, I feel like, to death. I haven't used it to its own death because there's still a lot of it left, but I love it so much that I'm kind of tempted to buy something else from Rowan. There are just all of these little things that have come and gone in my affections that I've decided against. And because my budget just renewed and because it's all on sale right now, I'm tempted to have my big purchase for the month be a Sephora order and to acquire all of those things that over the past several months, one by one, I have decided against acquiring. I feel like I'm considering letting the sale change my mind. So I'm sharing this with you because I feel like, in a weird way, I'm experiencing a very close approximation of what many people feel when the Sephora sale hits, whereas due to my no-buy year and due to the nature of my budget in the wake of my no-buy year, I haven't experienced this for a very long time. I've been really, really distant from these kinds of feelings, and it's been a really long time, almost 2 years since I've had this experience of being like, the sale is starting, maybe I should go back and buy all of those things that I had decided against buying over the past several months. Maybe I should do that. I feel like that right now. And to be totally honest, I don't think that I will. I think what I'll probably do is to shop around for something else that appeals to me more, like one really beautiful editorial winter dress or something like that. Or maybe I'll go to a clothing shop nearby that carries clothing that I really love and try it on and remember that there are a few nice pieces that I'd like to add to my fall wardrobe that will get more use from me and that will mean a lot more to me than the Kaja bento box, the Natasha Denona mini gold palette, all of these things that I have already made the wise decision not to buy. I think what I'm saying is I'm going to try to talk myself out of using the Sephora sale as an excuse to buy makeup this month instead of something else. And the cool thing is that the reason that it's either or is because of my budget. And I'm only able to leverage the power of other beautiful things that are more meaningful to me, that are more quality to me. I'm only able to leverage that over spending at Sephora because my budget is finite and I know that I won't break it. So it's kind of an interesting moment in the history of my life budgeting for beauty, and it's very related to the sale, and I just wanted to point that out to you and talk about it with you. So that's where I'm at. I think if I do anything, I might buy one thing. Maybe I will just buy that Rowan quad, or I'll just buy one bento box or something. You know what I mean? I might just buy one thing during the sale sort of to see how it goes, because I haven't bought anything on sale at Sephora since before my no-buy year. I haven't made a purchase during the Sephora sale at all. So maybe I will. Maybe I'll spend a little bit of my budget on it. But what I am tempted to do is to blow my whole November budget during the sale. And that's the thing that I am going to talk myself out of doing. So that's where I'm at with the sale. And it's been fun to talk it through because it is different than anything that's gone on with between me and the Sephora sale recently. And now I want to get into my two extremely straightforward pieces of advice. And again, well, piece of advice number one is something that I've said in many other videos. But again, I have a lot of really good advice and specific, detailed talk throughs of logic in other videos. So I hope that you will watch them if you haven't seen them, because there's stuff that I'm omitting to say here that I've said there. I just had two things that I felt like were really particularly relevant to this moment in time, to me and to us in this moment in time. Piece of advice number one, don't break your no-buy for the sale if you're on a no-buy. This is the thing that I've said before, but it bears repeating, especially because I know that a lot of you out there are on no-buys, no-buy years, no-buy months, no-buys for the season. If you're on a no-buy, today, these 11 days, if you're a Rouge, or 4 days or whatever it is, if you're not, this is one of, if you're on a no-buy for makeup and if Sephora is one of your vices, this is one of the hardest times for you of the year. This is your trial. You're walking through fire right now. Like these are the times that try our souls. This is it. This is your test. Just let that be all that it is. Let it be the test that you pass. It doesn't need to be angsty. It doesn't need to be a time during which you question whether you are or aren't going to break your no-buy. Just don't break it. It's as easy as that. It's as dumb, it's as stupid easy as that. If you're on a no-buy, you're on a no-buy, sale or no sale. The fact that the Sephora sale, what is wrong with me? I promise I'm not drunk. It's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday. Everything's fine. If you're on a no-buy, you are on a no-buy, sale or no sale. The definition of a no-buy is that when the sale happens, you do no buying. You do no buying at the sale. It's a no-buy. There is no buying. Don't break your no-buy for the sale. And piece of advice number two, and this is the one that it ties in very closely to the experience that I'm having, that I shared with you. And I feel like it's a little bit different than things that I've said before, because before, a lot of my sales survival tactics have been like, sales are dumb, like don't buy anything, don't get tricked, blah, blah, blah. But this is a little bit different. My advice number two, my piece of advice number two, my second piece of advice, aren't I supposed to be like the articulate YouTuber? Aren't I the one that people are like, the way your speech is so fluid? And today I've literally like switched 5 words around in a sentence and then said the whole sentence anyway and then moved on. I feel like I've done that at least 3 times during this video. My advice is, if you're not on a no-buy, is to budget this season. And I talked about this during my recent video about 7 strategies for keeping yourself from spending too much during the holiday season, keeping yourself from buying too much makeup, sale makeup, holiday makeup, all of that stuff. I talked about the idea of having a budget for the entire season, a budget for treat yourself moments. So my recommendation, and I know that this might not work for everyone, but if you're somebody who traditionally sort of accidentally, but also kind of allows yourself to overspend on yourself during this season, if you kind of go into the holiday season and like you're like tearing off your clothes, like going into the ocean, and you're like, yeah, and then you wake up in January and you're like, oh God, that was fun, but I'm so many thousands of dollars into debt now. And if you just like traditionally do that year after year after year, and you'd kind of like to either slowly change that habit or bring a halt to that habit, this is my recommendation: a really clear budget for this season. So this is the 1st of November. There are 2 months left in the year. I bet you can come up with an exact number of dollars that is the right amount for you to spend on yourself, on extras for yourself, treats for yourself, gifts for yourself during this season. It might be nothing. It might be none. It might be that you don't have a lot of extra spending money in your life in general, and that you need to allot all of your spending money to gifts for other people during this season. If that's true, go on a 2-month no-buy. Just tell yourself that your budget for yourself is zero between now and the end of the year, and that includes the Sephora sale. You could start that no buy today. That could be life transforming for you. So if that's what your budget is for yourself, then that's what that is. But maybe you know that you want to spend a little bit of yourself on yourself during this season. Think of the season as starting now. It starts during the sale. So maybe the amount of money that you think is healthy for, this is just an example, but let's say the amount of money that you, if you look at your finances, if you look at your savings, if you look at your income and you look at what you are going to have to pay for over the next 2 months until the end of the year, let's say that you feel comfortable saying that you're going to spend $100 on yourself during this season, and that all of the rest of your money is going to go towards your bills and your food and gifts for other people. If that's true, if that's comfortable, if $100 is reasonable, it's like giving you enough room to treat yourself and feel really good, but also it's finite enough, it's constrained enough that you're not going to get yourself into trouble. If that's true, then every penny you spend at the Sephora sale on yourself is a penny that you can't spend on yourself in December. If you celebrate Christmas, that's like when you go out Christmas shopping. So say that's you. Say that you celebrate Christmas or you celebrate another gift-giving holiday that happens within November and December. When you go out and you start buying gifts for people, if you spent your money on November 2nd, if you spent 3/4 of your budget, if you spent $75 on yourself at Sephora on November 2nd, then that's it. You only have $25 left when you're out Christmas shopping or holiday gift shopping in November and December, all the way up to December 31st, all the way up to the end of the year till January 1st. That's it. So that's a really good reason to not buy something during the Sephora sale. Even if it's on sale, even if you would save 20% off of it, and if you still spend that $75, it's gone. Whereas if you don't buy that thing, then halfway through December when you're at the mall and you see like a really gorgeous, I don't know, winter coat that's on sale because it's about to be the holiday season. It's about to be the time when everyone's buying gifts for each other. So you see like this gorgeous coat that's on sale for $75 that back during the Sephora sale you didn't even know it existed. Then you'll still have your whole $100 budget and you can decide to buy that. What I'm trying to say is, and this is like the most obvious bare bones of budgeting, like it's the thing that makes budgeting. I'm just trying to spell it out specifically as it applies to the Sephora sale and specifically as it applies to this season of the year. The magic of it is that if you choose to buy something, you are reducing your ability to buy other things. So it makes you truly interrogate the actual value of the thing to you. So the thing that the Sephora sale does is it tricks us out of interrogating the actual value of a thing, because you think that it's a really good deal because it's on sale, and you forget to stack up the sale price against all of the rest of what you can afford, and to stack the actual value that you place on the item against the value of other things that you could buy with that same amount of money. The sale tricks us out of going through that process, that wise process of valuation. So say there's something, you go into Sephora and there's something random like a hair turban, like one of those like drying towels that like we all know. I've been through the ringer with my dirty old hair turban that I'm still holding on to instead of replacing it with a new one. But say you see like the Aquas hair turban, the designer hair turban, which is $50. It's 20% off. So you're like, oh my gosh, I should get it because it's like such a good deal and it's something I've sort of always wanted. You grab it because it's on sale. If you only have $100 and then you're spending 40 of it or something on that turban, that's almost half of your budget. So if you never really, really wanted it, or if you're like, oh, it's such a good deal, but you don't want it more, then you want to have those $40 to spend later during this season, it immediately loses its flavor. It immediately loses the excitement. Or rather, what happens is you immediately reconnect with its actual value to you, which is actually quite low. Like it's not even your first, second, it's not even your second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, 10th, 20th choice. It's not even your 20th choice for how you would spend that $40. But because it was on sale, you got tricked into thinking that it was a good thing to add into your Sephora sale cart. So the last thing I want to say about budgeting is, I've been using $100 as an example, but you're out there. If you think that this strategy is a good one for you, you're deciding on your own number. So say that you decide, let's be a little more generous. Let's say you've got a little more flexibility, a little more income. So say that you decide on $300 as the amount that you can spend. And I know these are just arbitrary numbers. To some people, that will seem like it's not a lot. To some people out there, that's going to seem like it's an insane amount of money to commit to spending on yourself over the course of 2 months. I'm not putting any kind of morals behind that. Budgeting is so relative. So don't get in the comments and be like, $300, that's so much. My budget on myself is $50. Like, fine, like your budget for yourself is whatever yours is. I'm just using these numbers as arbitrary markers, right? So let's say that you're out there and to you, 300 seems like a hefty amount, but like a sort of like an appropriate number to land on. So say that you're sitting there and you're like, you're right, Hannah, you're smart. I'm on board. I'm going to commit to spending only $300 on myself over these next 2 months as I go about my holiday revelry business. I said this in the video about strategizing for not overspending during the holidays, but I know there are a lot of people who decide that, but they secretly know that they're going to break it. So if you're out there and you've decided on a number in your head, but you know that you're going to hit that cap, you're going to spend all 300, and then you're going to be like, oh, I misjudged. Back in November when I set my limit, I misjudged. I really need another 100, so I'm just going to buy this extra thing. Or like, I didn't know I was going to come across this pair of discounted sunglasses that I really, really want. So if I had known that then I would have definitely like made it a bigger budget. So even though I already hit my limit, even though I already spent all 300, I'm still going to buy this too. If you know that you're capable of that, if you know that it's highly likely that you'll spend your whole budget that you set for yourself and then you'll be like, oh, but I'm going to buy this too. If you know that in your heart of hearts, then you need to raise your budget now. Raise it to the amount of money that you think you can stick to. Because it is not good to set yourself a limit, a restraint, especially when it comes to finances and overspending, and then to break it. If you say you're going to only spend this much and then you spend more, you're training yourself to believe that you can't trust yourself. You're training yourself to believe that you can't stick to the rules you set for yourself. You're reinforcing your own conviction that you aren't trustworthy with your own money to yourself. You're reinforcing your own conviction that you can't change your own life. So don't lie to yourself. Don't set a budget and then break it, especially if you know now, if you're honest with yourself now, you know that you will. Don't lie to yourself. Only bad things can come from that. It will only make it harder to change yourself long term in the future when it really matters. And this is key. What I just said to you, that if you know you're going to break it, somebody's texting me. Stop texting me! All right, people were texting me and I got all discombobulated and I can't remember what I was saying. But I think what I was saying is this. What I just said to you about how if you know that you're going to break your budget, if you know that you're going to say, oh, my budget between now and the end of the year is $100, but then it's going to be plus 2 or 3 other things. Like if you know that that's how it's realistically going to shake down, then you need to raise your budget now. Set it at a bar that you know you can stay under, and then promise yourself that you're going to stick to it. And so you need to decide on a budget that you feel comfortable keeping that promise. So if you need to raise it to $500 because you know realistically that the $300 lie budget, like the fake budget, the lie that you're telling to yourself, which is that you're just going to spend $300. If you know that, oh, and all these other things too is going to mean that you eventually end up spending $500 between now and the end of the year, then raise it to $500 so that you're not lying to yourself and that you're not breaking your promise to yourself. That will be better. Deciding what it's going to be realistically and then keeping your promise to yourself. That is what I suggest. However, if in raising it to $500, you raise it to something that's really uncomfortable for you, If when you hit that level of spending that you know will be realistic, then you look at that number and you're like, I can't afford to spend $500 between now and the end of the year. Then choose a lower budget, but realize that if you break the budget like you thought you were going to, it's going to be the same as if you had set your budget at $500. So if you lie to yourself and say that you're only going to spend $300 on yourself between now and the end of December, and then you buy $200 more worth of stuff, then you will have spent $500. And you will have broken your promise to yourself. But if you can't bring yourself to commit to that right now because that's too much money, then it will be just as bad if you lie to yourself about $300. So what I'm trying to say is that decide what you can afford to spend, but if that's your true limit, like if $100 is truly all you can afford to spend on yourself between now and the end of the year, then you can't break your promise to yourself, both for sort of reasons of self-confidence and clarity and empowerment, and for financial reasons. You can't break it. So don't lie to yourself. If you set yourself a budget, make sure it's not a lie. So all of this is just to say, I want to encourage you to put the Sephora sale in the context of the spending you'll be doing over the next couple months. That's why I went on this long explicatory rant about budgeting during this video about the Sephora sale. Because sale time, it feels like a cheat time to us. We love to feel like sale time isn't real spending. We love to feel like the amount of money that we spend during the Sephora sale is separate from our budget for the holiday season and from our spending on ourselves during the holiday season. Well, guess what? The holiday season is already here. This is how it's being kicked off. This is it. What you spend during the Sephora sale matters. It matters for your November and December budgeting. It matters for your holiday budgeting, and it counts. So don't lie to yourself and act like it doesn't. That is it. That is my motivational speech about sticking to your guns and not letting the Sephora sale be a reason to overspend. It is not too late to make a plan and stick to it for your holiday spending. It is not too late to decide to do something differently this year, as opposed to the way that you've done things in the past. If you have historically been a holiday season overspending, it is not too late to decide that that's not what you're going to do this year. I feel like there was some bad grammar within that last minute of footage, but we're just going to move forward because grammatically this whole video is a wash. But I hope that you still enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to chatting with all of you down below in the comments about this topic. And I hope that you are remembering to take extra good care of yourself this week so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work.